Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Voices to Vote speaker series. My name is Heather Reed, and I'll be your MC for the evening. I am the Community Economic Development Consultant with the Haliburton County Development Corporation. I'd like to open the evening with a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we live and work on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the William Treaties First Nations, and also within the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin First Nations. I know it doesn't feel like spring yet, but it is coming. And I was thinking about this evening, and elections are a time for change, a time for renewal, a time to really think about what the priorities are. And for me, springtime brings up those same themes. And I feel like we're really fortunate to live in a beautiful place like Haliburton County, where we're surrounded by signs of winter or spring all the time, and we really get to be immersed in that. So let's take that spirit of change into how we hear tonight's message. Tonight is the third part of a 4-part series. This evening's focus is on behind the scenes of municipal leadership, and we have a wonderful panel with us here tonight. This session is intended to give you an inside look at what it is to be part of municipal government and how you can work with elected leaders to make change. This series is supported by the Haliburton County Development Corporation, Canoe FM, the Haliburton County Community Cooperative, the Telling Our Stories speaker series, and Jen Design, who built the fantastic website. Also want to give a shout out to Midori, who is recording the session, and Eric, who is handling the sound for us tonight. And for this evening specifically, a big thank you to Minden Hills for the use of this space, and to the Haliburton County Library, Minden Hills branch, for these comfy chairs we have. And last but certainly not least, to a crew from McKee Security, who moved the chairs to and will be taking them back to the library. Yes. This series is the brainchild of the Haliburton Highlands Healthy Democracy Project, which is a project of the co-op. The Healthy Democracy Project is a community-led initiative aiming to strengthen civic participation, support local leadership, and support the democracy in Haliburton County. Important to note that this project is about looking forward to ensure the strong local tradition of effective municipal council and democratic participation continues here in our community. I'd like to introduce the team behind the scenes: Barry Martin, Lauren Hunter, Carol Moffatt, Sean Penny-Legion, and Jessica Slade. This is a truly dedicated group who believe in community connection, accessible information, and the idea that democracy works best when everyone feels invited to participate. Thank you for making this evening possible. So our agenda tonight is fairly simple. I will introduce our panelists and then invite them to come up to the comfy chairs. Each panelist has pre-selected a few questions that they'll be responding to during the first part of the session, and I'll moderate that discussion. Then we'll open the floor to a Q&A with you and close the evening with some closing remarks. I do want to note that the nature of this evening's program is to learn from the panelists' experience. We're not focusing on political opinions and current events. And so as you listen and formulate your own questions, please keep the spirit of tonight in your mind. So now I'll introduce this evening's panel, and each one of them provided me with a wonderful bio, so thank you. First, Carol Moffatt, a familiar face to most of us. Carol is a keen community champion whose volunteerism includes a range of local organizations and initiatives supporting arts, tourism, literacy, economic development, and heritage. Carol's been a writer for numerous publications, including the Minden Times newspaper. She spent 3 years as the county's tourism marketing coordinator, and she and her husband, Tony, have owned several local businesses. Carol was the founder of the Stanhope Museum and oversaw the restoration of the Hawk Lake Log Chute, a project that saw her awarded Highlander of the Year in 2005. Carol first ran for office in 1994, losing one of 2 seats by 22 votes, but standing third in a field of 7. She ran again in 2006 and went on to serve 16 years in Algonquin Highlands Council, including 12 years as mayor and 2 terms as county warden. Her county council highlight was seeing the county through the 2013 floods as warden, after which she pressed for an interagency communication changes that remain in place today. And her most satisfying Algonquin Highlands achievement was getting the Ministry of Natural Resources fire station to the Stanhope Airport after years of long municipal discussion that well predated her time in council. Carol chose not to run again in 2022 and focus on personal projects. Her current volunteer work includes the Stanhope Museum, the Coalition for Equitable Water Flow, the Haliburton Highlands Digitization Project, and the Haliburton County Development Corporation's Community Economic Development Committee, and of course with the Healthy Democracies Project as well. Second, I'd like to introduce Pat Kennedy, a dedicated municipal leader and retired emergency services professional. Pat has devoted more than 3 decades to public service in Haliburton County. After a 34-year career as a paramedic, including 8 years as Director of Emergency Services in the county, in this leadership role, he oversaw the county's paramedic services and emergency management programs and played a key role in strengthening regional emergency preparedness. Following retirement from the county in 2014, Pat has remained actively involved in municipal governments and community development. He served as Deputy Mayor of the Municipality of Dysart from 2018 to 2022 and was a member of the Haliburton County Council during that same time, including 1 year as Deputy Warden. Pat has been a member of the Haliburton County Development Corporation since 2015 and has previously served as its chair. He also currently serves on the County Land Division Committee since 2018, contributing to responsible planning and development in the region. In 2024, he returned to the municipal administration on a temporary basis as Chief Administrative Officer for the Township of Minden Hills, providing leadership during the transition period when a permanent CEO was recruited. His continued community involvement includes serving in 2025 as a committee member supporting the Haliburton Highlands Health Services Foundation capital fundraising campaign for a CT scanner, helping strengthening access to healthcare services in our region. The third member of our panel is Andrea Roberts. Andrea is originally from Toronto and moved to Haliburton in 1987. She managed a local restaurant, and it was there that she met her husband, Stephen, born and raised local Haliburtonian. They have raised their 3 daughters here. Her husband started a fuel oil company in 1986, and she joined him there in 1994 until they sold the business in 2011. She had always wanted to give back to the community and felt a responsibility to do just that. Andrea was on the school council, joined boards, volunteered at church and other organizations. In 2006, she was looking for something more, and being a business owner, she had the flexibility to do just that. In the spring of 2006, it was suggested to her that she should run for council. After a lot of personal deliberation, yes one day, are you crazy the next day, she put her name forward to run as Ward 1 councillor in Dysart. She was successful and loved her new role. She ran again in 2010, and then for Deputy Reeve in 2014 and Mayor in 2018. She made the personal decision to retire in 2022. Some highlights of her time on council were fundraising for the library, and also for the skate park, being the organizing committee for Frost Fest, Color Fest, and the chair of the sesquicentennial celebrations for Dysart in 2017. But the real highlight was the everyday job of reading the agendas, showing up prepared, working with dedicated municipal staff, and serving the community. Now Andrea enjoys traveling, curling, pickleball, camping, and spending time with her family. The fourth member of our panel, Dane Nielsen, is the current deputy mayor of Grey Highlands and a Grey County councillor. Dane sits on the Rural Caucus for the Association of Municipalities, AMO, and is a Rural Ontario Municipal Association board member. Dane also represents Grey County on the Niagara Escarpment Commission, a past president of the Chamber of Commerce, Flesherton Kinsman, and Kids and Us Daycare. Dane and his wife and 2 children enjoy volunteering with many different groups, including the local Agricultural Society and Hanley Institute Youth Center. Don't be shocked to see his signature hat and big smile wherever he goes, as his motto is, "If I'm not having fun, I'm going somewhere else." So I'll welcome our panel to come and join me just up on the risers. We'll get going. All right, so to start the session off, each panelist has prepared about a 2.5 to 3 minute response to these 2 questions. Why did you choose to run for office? And what was your core personal motivation? And Carol, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I grew up here as a cottager, and when I moved up here in 1990-ish, Tony's always been involved in the Stanhope Fire Department, so I got involved in lots of municipal committees because I thought, well, I'm going to get involved too. And at the time, you know, committees are very involved in policy and process because they're kind of like miniature councils. And everything felt really rigid and old-timey to me. So I thought it would be fun to get on the other side of it and then make the decisions that allowed different things to happen in the community, because I was much younger than perhaps some other people were, and so I wanted to make those changes. So I'm going to read what I wrote, because I went back through the Digital Archives project and looked at, and what I said in 1994, I said that it was time people of my generation took some responsibility for the community in which they lived and worked. And I also said that I thought my candidacy was a link between the generations. I think that still holds true today. As you heard, I lost. But I came back in 2006, went back to the archives and found out that I said I wanted to be the conduit between what is and what can be in the future. And I did actually say this part out loud, that council was aging. And if younger people didn't sign up to learn the ropes, our community would be in trouble. And I think that also stands true today. So I didn't have any illusions about changing the world. I had no big platform. I had no, any gripe to resolve. I just wanted to make a difference. But the foundation was good. I just wanted to be part of what could be in the future and just learn from the people who'd been there for years so I could be the next generation of decision makers. So I call joining councils is like merging with traffic. You don't go in there and have a car accident, you merge with traffic. So really it was just, I wanted to see what could be modernized in the community that I had chosen as my home and that I loved. That was it. Great,
thank you. Pat, you're up next.
Okay, I dropped my glasses somewhere, so my notes are going to be not very good. I'm losing Andrea's here. I have no idea where they went.
They go with your shirt, girl.
Oh, do they? Well, good, as long as we're decorated. When I ran in 2018, and I look back at my campaign notes, and it hasn't changed. I felt at that time that to refocus on council priorities and our need to plan for future development, both short-term and long-term. And I felt that was lacking a bit. And a desire to help shape the future of Dysart. I'm really proud of my community, both at the Dysart level and the county level. And I'd like to be a flag bearer for it. But with that, it's a need to balance fiscal responsibility and try and keep our costs within some kind of boundary, although with the province, the way they're doing things, it's almost impossible when we look at the stuff that we're paying for. That should be a provincial. Together. I'm not going to start over again. Thanks. It's also something that's always interested me, and I'll give it a little Carol lost her first time. I did too. I ran actually in my mid-20s. An interesting story, I did so poorly, I didn't get any votes on the advanced poll, but I had a lot of people said they voted for me there. So I took that as a bit of great assault and worked a lot harder than my one-shot wonder kid that I was for 4 years. My goal was always to start at deputy mayor and move up to mayor. Unfortunately, health concerns have changed that, but I still feel I can make value to the community.
Thank you. Andrea?
Yeah, as I said in my bio, the short answer is somebody suggested, sort of tapped me on the shoulder and said, you should run for council. You'd be good at that. And at first I thought, like I said, no way, not going to do it. But it did make a lot of sense in some ways because I had already been on a lot of different boards, on school councils. I was president of community living in Haliburton. And I enjoyed being part of an organization that was doing good work in the community. We owned a business, as I stated, but because we were the owners, I was able to be flexible. I could take a phone call from work. So I thought I can balance being on council and still being in business. I needed a personal challenge. Our business was great. My husband's in the room. It was our bread and butter, let me tell you, but it wasn't stimulating for me. I had worked in restaurants and hotel business. I needed to be with people and doing things. So next thing you know, I put my name forward. I didn't run because of any negative issues that were going on. It wasn't that sort of thing. I wasn't unhappy with the direction that the town was going in. In fact, I probably actually didn't pay too much attention to what was going on until I got on council. But you know what? I was in my mid-40s. I had 3 kids. I was running a business, and I thought, sure, just pile it on. Just bring on one more thing. So it was a leap of faith. I really struggled with it because I felt I could do a good job, but the idea of the campaign was almost paralyzing for me. I was so full of self-doubt. I wasn't smart enough. I don't have the right education. I have no government experience. Who do I think I am? I got to ask someone, pick me, vote for me. Ugh. I remember the first time my husband and I banged in that first election sign. It was on a very prominent corner in the village of Haliburton. And I had I don't know if you guys remember the IKEA commercial. Get in the car. So there it was. Everybody knew I was running for council. And I just want to say too, like when I first ran for council, it wasn't to be a second career. Well, I never saw myself as mayor. And we'll get to that later in the evening. But it was just, I can do this. So that was it.
Great, thank you. Dane?
Hi, so I have 3 kind of things that led me to run. My wife and I were small business owners in the community. I had joined the Chamber of Commerce. I had become president of a local daycare with my daughter went there, and then my second child went there. So I was involved in a few different things in the community. My wife and I both were volunteering on things already. And I had a council member come into my store one day and ask me if I'd be interested in volunteering for our tourism advisory committee. And so I said, you know what, that sounds great. I'm more at the Chamber of Commerce. It sounds perfect. And they actually had to go and interview to volunteer, which was the first time ever. And I apparently interviewed very well because the county tourism gentleman was there doing the interview. And the next day I saw him at a chamber event. He's just like, you are amazing. I'm so excited about you. We need more people like you. So I got involved in the tourism advisory committee, went to the public meeting, and it was pretty dry. The consultant that we had hired was dry delivery. And so the crowd started kind of turning on the presenter. He was kind of, they were being negative. They were commenting, this plan's just going to sit on the shelf. And I got mad at the community. We had done a ton of work. We had put a lot of effort into it. So I literally yelled at the community. I said, sitting in this room right now, there's the person who runs the bed and breakfast. There's the person who runs the restaurant. Here's the hiking trail, Bruce Trail people. And here's an artist. You're going to get together. You're going to tell people to hike up the Bruce Trail, do a painting, go have dinner here, and stay at this bed and breakfast. That's what we're talking about. Have a destination. Draw people here. Well, at the end of that, I had 3 or 4 people tell me I should run for council. The other thing that kind of happened was my wife and I had tried to do some building on our own property, and there was a new policy had come out about second unit dwellings back from Dalton McGuinty days. Went to the office, and the office replied to me that, we don't have any policies on that yet. We're waiting to see what Chatsworth is doing. We're waiting to see what Meaford is doing. And I said, well, why is my municipality waiting to see what another municipality is doing before making a decision? That made no sense to me. So between all those things, I thought, I'm going to run in 2022. And my wife looked at me and said, you can run in 2018. I said, but nobody knows me. I don't know. I haven't built enough of a reputation. I'll spend 4 more years. My wife said, you can run and lose and just run again. And I went, I never thought of that. Like, I thought if I lost, I'd have to slink into the shadows and just not be seen in the community again. So I ran, and much to my surprise, I had over 50% of the vote and made it on and just started running from there.
Well, thanks for making the trip over to be with us tonight.
Absolutely excited.
Yeah. So we're going to shift into the first part of the evening where we've got some pre-planned questions. And to start us off, Andrea, what was the most rewarding part about working on council, and what was the most stressful part?
For me, it's been 3.5 years since I retired, and I still get people asking me, oh, that's a thankless job, like that you did that. And I always answer, no, it's not a thankless job. It's a very rewarding job, actually. I mean, yeah, there's stress, but what job doesn't have stress? I feel that actually what I did was very appreciated by most people. So I've had time to look back on my 16 years on council, and I have way more happy memories than I do. I still miss it, actually, and I'm not running, but don't talk about it. I said that quietly. But on reflection, the other thing is, like, I grew as a person. I became stronger. I became more confident. I learned to speak up for things that I believed in. I actually enjoyed the municipal process. It's slow. I learned to listen to people's concerns, to find consensus, compromise. And I loved working with the municipal staff. I loved meeting people in the community that had ideas, that wanted to bring an event to town or a development that was coming to town and work on those sorts of things. Other things that were rewarding, you know, it sounds weird, but there's satisfaction in, just like I said, the mundane things, the everyday things. Not everybody's watching every council meeting. I know there's some councillors in the audience today, and they'll know what I'm talking about. When you review your zoning bylaw from front to back, it's not exactly riveting, or your official plan. But those are your Bibles. Those are the things that you stand with. And you go to these meetings, and this line is redlined, and then you talk about this word and the semantic of this and the sentence, get it just right. Those are important, those everyday things. So looking back on the whole 16 years, I can look back now and say, yeah, that was really rewarding. The stress is pretty obvious, I would think, to most people. You put your face on a thing and put a sign on the ground, say, pick me. And so public pressure, negative comments, often very personal. They're getting worse. They're way, way worse. We've talked about that. And your time commitment. It's a big time commitment. What was most stressful? Well, some of us had to navigate COVID. That was hard. Won't talk about that anymore. But if you have people around you, you got your back, you can handle the controversy.
Right. Thank you. And our second question is for Dane. What factors contribute to positive council-public relationship?
There's a few things that I think are pretty important to remember. Please remember that adults are allowed to disagree. So at the council table, your council's not your enemy. They are a part of your group that are trying to debate, discuss, engage, and make a decision for the whole community. So if you start from that perspective, and you have respect for your fellow councillors and don't look at them as an adversary or an enemy, that they want the exact same thing you want. This is the way I look at it. To make your area the best it can be, they just have a different view of what that might look like. And that's okay, we're allowed to disagree. So take that perspective to the residents who are going to yell at you for doing something wrong. They're going to be mad about their garbage not getting picked up, or their snow not getting plowed, or some recreation thing. They're not mad at you as a person, they're mad at a situation. So don't take them to your heart and think that everybody's trying to attack you. The Facebook posts are gonna sound like they're attacking you. I've been called a bleep more times than I can think on Facebook, but I've seen those people in public and they don't do that to your face because they're not really mad at you, they're mad at a situation. So those are two things that I really take into it. I also wanna say that when it comes to a positive council public relation, do not throw your staff under the bus. Like, they're working their hearts out for your municipality. They are the ones who did the time in education and trained. If a resident comes to you to chew out a staff, back them up And then if you think you have to have a conversation with the staff, have that privately. Like, don't ring out your staff in public, because your public will then not have the trust and faith in your staff that they're doing the right job, and you're gonna start undermining everything. So support your fellow councillors, be open and honest with the residents who are coming to talk to you, but accept the fact that you're gonna have people who don't like what you're doing. That's kind of part of the job, I think, to the stress you just spoke to. But that they're not necessarily always mad at you as a person, it's a situation. A quick story, if I can, if he doesn't give me the red card too fast. When I was self-employed, we had a very controversial file about Talisman Mountain Resort in our municipality. I got 30 seconds. It was very controversial. The municipality took the land back on taxes. We sold the land to a developer. And there were a lot of environmentalists who thought, how dare you sell this land? We could have made a green space. So Thursday, we sold the land. Saturday morning, I have a resident come into my store who's just like, my husband said I shouldn't come, but I can't help it. And she came and read me out about the sale of this land. And about 5 minutes in, I said, let's get to the root of this. Let me defend myself. Let me explain things. 5 minutes later, a resident comes in, the first thing out of his mouth, about bloody time you did some economic development. I'm so excited you sold this property. And then this was COVID time, so I had my mask on, and I watched 2 residents duke it out in my store. I'm trying to sell wine, by the way, not politics. And this is kind of what will happen. You have a whole community with different voices and ideas. Be respectful to them, be honest to them, and you'll have a good time.
So to build on that, the next question is for Carol. How are conflicts resolved around the council table?
Fisticuffs.
Right on.
Duel at 10 paces.
That's right, duels at 10 paces. So I was listening to Dane, I was thinking, was he looking at my notes? He's spot on, and we would probably all agree and a lot of people don't realize, especially in the world today where everything is based on, like comeuppance and all fighty and there's controversy, there's disagreement. There shouldn't be conflict at a council table. You're supposed to disagree. If you have a council when everyone agrees all the time, that's also a problem. So you need to have people who bring the divergent views, the different opinions, their life experience, and hopefully, because the job of a councillor is to represent the public, hopefully they're bringing the public voice to the table as well. And it's, as Dane said, it's consensus building, it's negotiation. This is a really bad example, but it's almost like Go Fish. Like, well, what do your people want? What do your people want? And you should disagree until you agree. That's your job on behalf of the people who elected you. And that's it. So the people who might run for office and they say, well, I'm going to make sure those staff are fired, and I'm going to get those bylaws overturned. No, they're not. So don't elect those people, because you need people who will, as I said, merge with traffic and help find solutions and answers. You don't go to a council table to fight with people. You go there to figure it out. And so the disagreement, absolutely, conflict, no place for it at all.
Right, the next question is for both Pat and Dane. Given the level of compensation and the demands of the job, how did being a councillor fit with your work and personal life? And Pat, I'll ask you to start it off.
I guess I was lucky. I was retired when I decided to do this. And so I was able to devote a large amount of time, and it's 24/7. There's just so much research. I was starting a sort of almost a top job. So I had a lot of catching up to do, even though I attended council meetings from January right through to the election. Because the first thing you're going to do when you get your seat is you're going to talk about the budget. If you haven't had a background, at least by following council, then that's a problem. So that is devoting a large amount of time for everything that's going on. And I think the compensation levels are too low, especially at the councillor level. If we're going to attract younger people that can afford to make the commitment to attend council, because don't forget, not just the 2 council meetings a year as a councillor, you've got numerous committees that take up a lot of time. And there's a lot of work that still goes in at the councillor level, and even more so at the deputy mayor and mayor position and serving on county council. So by putting the 2 together, it's not a bad salary. With money from the county, money from the lower tier, it makes it more of a feasible thing that you can look at. If you're going to be employed by somebody, you got to have a willing employer. The daytime committees are the thing that I think that really takes away from having better people who are more interested, or new blood, or however you want to term it, coming on to council. So I think the county is on the way of helping with that and moving things up the path so that we can attract a larger variety. And I just look forward to watching them grow.
Mm-hmm. And Dane, what's been your experience?
So before running for council, when I knew I wanted to run, I asked a couple of council members, like, how much time per week are you devoting, like council members, because I wasn't running for mayor or deputy mayor. And both of them flat out lied. They both told me 7 hours a week is all, you got a meeting, you got a committee, you got to read an agenda or something. So I was like, okay, well, I can balance that with being self-employed. And my shop, I was like really self-employed. It was just myself. So I ran and got on council for a job that paid me $17,000 a year. And within 4 months, my wife quit her job making 40-some-odd thousand a year so she could run the business that I didn't have time to do. Because I was putting in 20 hours a week, 20 plus hours a week. Because I wanted to learn. I needed to learn what your water and sewer rates are and why do we have them? What's a development charge? How does zoning bylaws work? Oh my gosh, the zoning bylaw is more exciting than she tried to tell you. But it really does devote a lot more time than anyone can kind of fathom. And it's also dependent upon you. If you take it seriously and want to do the homework and do the best you can, you're going to invest some serious hours. When it comes to the pay scale, that first term of council, I made $17,000, was my best year. I think average between $15,000 and $17,000 for a Grey Highlands councillor. Grey Highlands last term did a community committee to review our remuneration situation. This term of council is a significant difference. My base salary for a councillor is $24,000 that went up with COLA every single year. Council now receives the same benefit package that our staff does. That includes retirement through OMERS. It includes dental, health benefits. That base salary does not include committee meetings, mileage, conferences, and etc. The deputy mayor's base salary is $32,000 this year. It started at $29,000, $5,000 more than a council member, and the mayor makes $10,000 more than the deputy mayor. That was community's decision. Council was not part of that committee that brought this forward. It was a committee of 3 council members who brought this idea forward and the change. What council did is say that mileage should still matter because, like here, we are a rather large municipality. We're 840 square kilometers. And so you might live at the very far corner and have to drive to the municipal office like myself. I got 15 seconds, so I'm going to speed up and say the value changed. Then kind of to what he was just saying, I sit on the county, I sit on the Niagara Escarpment Commission, I sit on Roma. Between 5 different boards and organizations, I have a full-time job and I make a decent full-time salary. So you can make it a job if you're as dedicated and crazy as I am. I ran out of 15 seconds, I'm positive. You said I'd get the first hook.
I said you would get the first hook.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's amazing to hear the passion and the insights are appreciated. So this next one is for Carol and Andrea. What is unique about being a woman in politics? And Carol, we'll start with you.
Well, how long have you got?
2.5 minutes.
I'm going to keep an eye on that. So I think I went in a different direction than Andrea did, and I went sort of research-based. And so I grew up, my mom was a corporate bigwig when women weren't in boardrooms. So a woman in a non-traditional role was just how I grew up. So getting into this was, like, I never really thought much about it. But don't think that doesn't allay any of the concerns, the things that Andrea said. What's interesting is that, this is the formal stuff, is that, I'm going to go here, is that women and men lead differently, according to all the studies. Women are more issue-oriented and transformational in their leadership, and men are more solution-oriented and transactional. What a great combination. So that's why you need the mix. You need the different perspectives, you need the different experiences, and you just need more voices at the table, men, women, and younger people, older people from any community that a community has. I did develop a presentation about women in leadership a number of years ago. When I went back to those notes, we all keep our notes. And what's interesting about men and women in positions of leadership is how they're referred to. This is funny, it's not funny. Assertive men in leadership can be considered goal-oriented. Assertive women in leadership are dictatorial. Men who are steadfast in their position are highly committed, while women doing the same thing are inflexible. Men are confident in their abilities, women are arrogant about theirs. A plain-spoken man is forthright, and a plain-spoken woman is harsh. So those definitions depend on whether you like the person or not. And so using me as an example, some people saw me as committed, goal-oriented, and forthright, and others saw me as harsh and arrogant and dictatorial, but that's just, it depends on which side of the issue people were on. 30 seconds. At the table, yeah, absolutely. Remember, I was on the Warden's Caucus too, so I may not be talking about Haliburton County. I had male colleagues call me a bitch and a ball buster, and I just think, really, like, that's the best you got? Because when the debate fails, the insults begin. So the bottom line is that we need to get rid of this gender stuff. We just need to elect good people to do a good job for good reasons. It still exists, but we can sweep out those dark corners if we work together on it.
And Andrea, what would you like to add?
So when just back in time, when I ran for council 20 years ago, I can't believe it saying that, I was the only woman on that council. I was just remembering that. In 2006, I would say, broke into a little bit of an old boys club. I still don't ever know if I was the first female mayor. I never did find that out. It's a research that, but I think I was. But I hope it's a little bit different, but I think in a lot of ways that it isn't. I do think women are judged on what they wear, what their hair looks like, what their clothing is. We do. Even women judge other women that way, good or bad. Like Carol said, I think if a woman has strong ideas, she's opinionated. If a woman's confident, she's full of herself. If she's good at taking charge, she's bossy. But on a positive note about being unique as a woman, when I got on council and as I continued in my time, nothing changed at home. I still was juggling the kids and the work and the da-da-da-da and all of that. So I feel like women, I don't know, I don't like that word multitask, but I was able to have a lot of balls in the air at the same time, and I think that's actually can be a benefit for some people. It was for me. I also, again, I don't know if this is just for women, but I worked really hard to make work-life balance when I was not on council. Like, it wasn't in a meeting. When I'm in a meeting, I'm in the meeting. But when I went to book club, nobody asked me about what was going on. They could, I don't even know, did they even care? We're talking about our kids and where we're traveling and what we're doing. I had a really good, solid group of girlfriends. I did stuff. I went to exercise class. I did other things. So I was able to kind of park that, which was really good and a benefit. I think women are able to do that. And most importantly, though, and this can still be ongoing, I think women really, really need to support other women. So if there are women in the group or in the audience today that are considering it or think that somebody might want to run, support that. Support those women, because we do need a balanced council. We do need women on council.
Thank you both. Okay, our next question is for Pat and Carol. What skills do you feel are most valuable for a councillor? And Pat, what are your thoughts?
I think number one is patience. I went in thinking we were going to set the world on fire in the first 6 months, right? We get the houses built, we get the roads done, bang, bang, bang. 4 years later, I couldn't even get damn signs to where the arena is. So my wife continually reminds me. She said, if you don't do anything else at council, get some signs so people know where to go. It didn't happen. So that's the first thing. The ability to research. I found myself really trying to expand my background knowledge. When I would read a staff report, I had the planning zoning, provincial policy statements, whatever. And I tried to go through them with the thought of staff will sometimes interpret may and shall as shall, but the actual legislation may say may or shall. And I always tried to and convince staff that maybe you don't have to do everything that's in the list. Maybe we can help our citizens here to lower costs. I don't know, land division, the costs to divide your lot are ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's a task that needs to happen at the provincial level, because we're bound by provincial policy statements and provincial policies, but there needs to be some work at that level. The other thing is listen, and you will listen, because you'll be caught in the grocery store, you will not be able to get by them. So just listen, and at the same time, listen to them accurately and with compassion. It's something obviously that's important to them because they bring it up to you. So I always wanted to make sure that I was a little bit good on all the things, right? I could hit the tops of the waves. And then my last comment would be, I'll follow up with staff and I'll get somebody to give you a call. And even if they were mildly ticked off at the end of the conversation, I tried to make sure that was followed up so that that person got a call. And then the other thing is ability to work with your staff and fellow councillors. I like to talk to fellow councillors person to person at council meetings and not necessarily sway them, but present an argument that may help them change their mind. And staff, I agree wholeheartedly, don't throw them under the bus. They're your greatest single asset you can have. And you can disagree with your fellow councillor, you still go out for lunch. And that was the attitude I always had. I got a couple other things, but I'll leave them for the last. Thank you.
Okay.
That was fast. That was fast.
Yeah.
Did he give you the sign?
I'm under 45 on Street 30.
All right. So Carol, what's your perspective on skills?
Yeah, it's going to be kind of the same. And I was tapping there because patience was my number one as well. Because I did a top 10 list. So number one is of course I did. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Patience for long reports, frustrating situations, upset people, things that make no sense because lots of things make no sense. And what I've always called the thick soup of process, like you and I could build a fence like by lunchtime, and a township can take 3 months to do it because it has to go through. But that process is really important so the public can see that you're going through the process and not giving the job to your brother, right? Community knowledge and contacts. Willingness to learn. You mentioned this. Like you're reading these huge documents, things you've never heard of. You have to be enthused from anything from swing sets to septic inspections, and you have to like it because people are relying on you to have gotten the information and had the conversations to make the best decision for the community. So you have to have a willingness to learn. Strategic thinking, but not in a sneaky way, more in like Jenga or Tetris. You have to be able to see how the pieces fit together, because you could be making a decision over here, but you have to be able to follow it to know that it fits in here. You guys know what I mean, so I don't know if that makes sense out there. Being able to discuss things without getting angry or insulted. Yes, leave it at the table, leave it at the table, leave it at the table. Don't go on social media and crap all over staff and your colleagues. Willingness to change your mind if the discussion warrants it. You can go in saying, I'm voting for blue. And you get in there and go, oh, actually orange sounds pretty good. Like I agree with the conversation that I've heard, and you're not supposed to go into a council meeting with a decision made, by the way. A commitment to doing the job, not having the job, like big man on campus. I'm a councillor. You know what? I'm a councillor. Like you have to do the work. You can't just walk around crowing about it. And as Pat said, talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. That is the job. Your job is to bring the community voice to the table and take the township voice back out to the public. There are lots of really interesting, knowledgeable people that have a lot to offer. Listen to them. You may not agree with them, but sometimes people come up with really good ideas. Discretion, the ability to retain confidentiality. The public will tell you things, and you'll learn things on council. And zippy lippy, don't tell your spouse, keep your mouth shut. There's that. Discretion is the better part of politics. And finally, enough humility to admit when you're wrong, because you will be wrong. So you have to be able to say, I messed up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my top 10.
That's a pretty great top 10. Our next question is for you, Dane. Based on your work with the provincial organizations, in addition to what you're doing locally in Grey County, what do you consider to be the biggest threat or opportunity to municipal governance?
So this one is, I got to be honest, it's actually scared me. Well, I'm not going to argue whether conservative, liberal, or anything you want to do. Like if you're a conservative voter, that's fantastic. The current conservative government is trying to actively erode municipal elected voices, period. They changed the governance model for the strong mayor powers, and I will tell you now, in some municipalities, somewhere across Ontario where there's 444 of them, there's going to be one sacrificed because of these powers. Straight and simple, a mayor can come in and fire your CAO and fire senior staff and run on that platform, but have zero understanding of what it takes to run a municipality. So that terrifies me. That one is a huge concern. Coupled on top of that, the province is just talking about getting rid of English school board trustees. The province is talking about merging conservation authorities. So in my case, we're going to merge 6 conservation authorities. My municipality currently has 3 of them in our district. which means I have 3 municipally elected people, 1 on each of those boards. We're going to move to a regional one with 6 conservation authorities, 1 board. That means I'm going to have 1 elected official from Grey County sitting on a regional board that's going to be based upon population. So Simcoe County, which for some reason is going to get connected to my municipality, is going to have more votes, more seats at a table when I go from 3 conservation authorities to 1 with 1 vote. That may not even be a Greyhounds elected official because Grey County represents 9 municipalities. In my riding and district, our health board, I don't know if you heard about it in the news, the Grey Bruce Health Board had some internal issues and the province came in and fired all the board members. So we are currently actively looking to recruit new board members for the final 6 months and change the governance structure, which includes the province developing a skills matrix rather than just the county being able to appoint 4 county councillors. We now have a skills matrix as to whether or not you go to the health board. So all of these things are being compiled. Oh, the last one, the police services board. Same thing. We went from having our own police services board, so now we're doing a regional police services board. And for mine, that is 9 police services boards got merged. Where my police services board cost my municipality $5,000, we're now looking at $15,000 to run the joint one, which I can't understand why. So the province is actively eroding municipally elected voices. You are hearing it on the news repeatedly. That is the scariest thing coming out of what's going on right now. That is also, I'd like to caveat say, my own personal opinion. It's not the position of AMO and Roma. We are working with the province on some of this legislation, but as personally, strong mayors in this province is scaring me.
The final question for this part of the program is for Andrea and Carol. What is the main difference in your experience as a councillor versus as a mayor? And Andrea, we'll start with you.
I'm going to start. There's a huge difference. And I personally am really glad that I did it the way I did, that I ran for council to start and had 8 years on municipal council before that. It was manageable for me with my time. I was able to still do other things. And you focus on issues that are unique to your municipality. I didn't really worry about the things that were happening at the county. A deputy reeve, I got in 2014 when I ran for deputy reeve. I had more time to commit to the job, so that was great. But running for mayor and the being mayor was like a next level up. It was a lot more responsibility. I felt that responsibility. You are the face of your township. You are the spokesperson. You are the chairperson of meetings. You are the conduit between staff and other people. Any developer, they come, they want to talk to the mayor. People, just responsibility just even with other councillors and that sort of thing. So it was a huge change. It's a full-time job, but it's not a normal full-time job. We've talked about that before. Like, you've got to be ready, sort of available. No, I don't want to say 24/7, but you were available all the time. I was still able to take a holiday, but here and there, I remember camping and, checking my cell phone 20 times a day for emails and doing DocuSign while we were camping at Pinery. But I was still working. I sent Mallory a little selfie and said, okay, got it done, sent it done. So, I still was able to take some holiday time, but I never just unplugged. I never unplugged, and that's the difference. And people expect that, actually. They expect you to be available. So, yeah, it's a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Carol?
What she said. No, a lot of common points. And first of all, everything is your fault, right? Everything is your fault. The mayor is the only position with legislative responsibilities under the Municipal Act. And I do have in brackets here strong mayor powers. I can completely agree. Strong mayor powers is the worst thing that has ever been introduced. The mayor sets the tone and standard, increase responsibilities, spoke about that. You prepare differently for meetings because not only are you taking your stuff to the meeting because you're going to contribute to the conversation, you have to you have to chair the meeting and keep the agenda on order and move along stalled discussions, intervene if there's any sort of disagreements because there's no conflict at council. And it's almost like, you see people playing the old cathedral organs, like you're keeping a lot of balls in the air. You work differently with the CAO. It's a different relationship, and you might, again, going back to that discretion part, You probably have access to confidential information that hasn't gone to council yet because it might be in the works or there's a lawyer being contacted or called or something. And you have to keep that stuff to yourself. Yeah, more meetings, more public speaking, more. And I'm telling you, when you're at the Chamber of Commerce dinner, you always keep your chair pushed out a little bit. So when they suddenly call your name, you can just stand. Because what you don't want to do is take the fork out of your mouth and then try and, so you learn all that stuff. County council, double the workload, entirely different portfolios, different responsibilities. Most of them are up. I firmly believe that a councillor represents, is the conduit to the people, and the mayor should be the conduit to the county and up to the province, and then there's a little bridge between the two. You are the community representative you talked about. You have to be somewhat versed in provincial and federal issues. You don't have to be a policy wonk about that stuff, but you have to know what's going on. If you are mayor and you decide that you want to have a run at being the warden and you get elected to be warden, you're going to end up on the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, where you will probably be sitting in a room with various ministers representing 800,000 people in 103 municipalities. So when people want to run for the position of mayor, they have to keep these kinds of things in mind. It really is a huge step up. And for people who are voting, if somebody wants to be the mayor and you're looking at them, think about those things and assess whether you think they can do those things for this community and do those things well, because it is a very big job.
Thank you all for preparing so well with that. We didn't even really have to ring the bell, use the hook, so well done.
He waved it a couple of times.
That's all right. We're going to shift gears at this point and hear some questions from you. Before we begin, just a gentle reminder that this is a Q&A, not about politics, not about current events, but it's an opportunity to learn more about what it's like to be an elected official and to get you thinking about what's involved in municipal leadership and how you can participate as a community member or as a candidate. So I'll ask that you direct your questions to a specific member of the panel, and then I'll repeat the question just to ensure that everyone in the room has heard. And we'll open the floor to you. There is a mic at the back if you would like to gravitate there as well.
Can I share a funny story while we're waiting for someone to get to the mic?
And we'll start with a funny story from Dane.
Well, just might take something.
No, that's great. That's great.
We were talking about conflict around the table, or conflict with residents and stuff like that. So I had a resident who was very passionate, very excited, and they got up kind of in my bubble, and they were, I don't want to use the term yelling, but they were very firm in their tone and their comments about all the things that I need to do to get done. And I responded to them, I said, "You have fantastic ideas. You should run for council." And the response they had is, "Oh, I could never run for council. I'll end up punching somebody." And so I looked at them and I said, "What would you like me to do right now?" And they took a couple of steps back, and then they looked at me and they said, "You heard me, you just get those things done." And then they laughed. And it's make sure you run for council. This is a fantastic job. I cannot deliver how excited and passionate I am to do this job, because every day you get to affect your municipality. So run with passion, but be that positivity to it. Don't go there trying to scream and yell or attack. Come and have fun. You're gonna love it. Please, put your name down, run, be excited, have fun. And hopefully I'll see you at the first Roma, January of 2027. That's my plug.
That was a very good plug.
Yeah.
There's nobody at the microphone.
Bar, yeah.
What do you think about the 4-year term versus a 3-year, 2-year term?
Who would you like to direct that to?
I'll ask Pat.
So Pat, what are your thoughts on the 4-year term?
Well, that's the only term I experienced. I felt that you're trying to catch up the first year. You still can't recognize when they make a presentation. They give you an acronym or a bunch of initials, and you're going, "What does that thing mean?" And they've moved on 4 more points past you. So you're always catching up. One of the advantages to that, though, has been COVID, because all the municipalities in the county now have televised meetings. So you can go back, and I've had that brought to me too. It's hour, 2 hours and 14 minutes in, you said this. Sorry. So there's that. But I've never had an experience with a 3-year. I think you're just going to get your feet under you and you're done.
Would anyone else like to chime in on that?
Have you experienced less than 4-year
I
terms?
don't even remember.
When we ran, it was the first time. The term before us was a 3-year term. and it went to a 4-year term. I can tell you staff like it a whole lot better. They have to train some new kids. I hear some staff laughing in the audience. They had to, because what Pat just referenced is that it does take some time to sort of get up to speed to what's happening in the municipality and just to understand everything. So there's the election period and then there's the learning period. So yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with a 4-year term. It's fine.
You will find it's not enough, and 20-year terms should be, because like at the end of the 4 years, there's going to be a project that you're just, you think you're just going to get it finished.
Excited.
I got to run and get that finished.
Yeah.
And then 7 years later, I still got to run and get that first one finished.
Because the thick soup of process, because things can take 12 years to get done. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Barbara, did you have a?
Yes, so again, non-political and not financial either. I'm wondering, and this is open to anyone, how or what your thoughts are in terms of eliminating the 2 tiers and making it into one.
I want to answer that.
In terms of the workload and what it would mean for the individual councillors that have to then step up.
So thank you for directing that towards Carol. So the question was just thoughts on single tier versus multiple tier.
It's time. And I know there's people who are saying, you can't do, what about Oxtongue Lake, what about Harcourt? I have a huge file on my computer. I was researching this because it was always nipping around. We talked about it a little bit at County Council, and this is not a bad story. Dave Burton has always said, if there's amalgamation, we're going to take Highlands East and we're going to go to Hastings. Well, you know what?
No, we're not. I'm from Highlands.
Who says Hastings wants you, right? So before I got on, or when I just got on, Eleanor Harrison, who was my predecessor, she went to meetings where she lobbied very, very hard to keep Algonquin Highlands in Haliburton County, and she was successful. I believe that if work isn't hurried along on the, what's it called? What are they doing at the county level? Service delivery.
Yes.
That it won't be too long before someone either forces amalgamation or cuts the county in half and gives half to Muskoka and half to Hastings. And I'm not trying to be alarmist, but that's just what I think. Prior to COVID, I was not a fan of amalgamation. Through COVID, I have come to believe that all the reasons to stay 2-tier, poof, they went away in COVID, I believe. And I think that there was and I know when we did a fire service review, Algonquin Highlands, when we had the troubles and had a huge walkout in the Dorset Fire Department, you have to recalibrate and recalculate. The same thing would happen here. You have to be willing to embrace something different, something new. So would people lose their jobs? Maybe, but you wouldn't have one CAO that is the CAO for the entire county and then suddenly have all these people down here. There'd be a different managerial structure. So you have to decide for things like amalgamation. Do you want less? Do you want cost savings, or do you want efficiency? Because they're polar opposites, and you cannot have the two at the same time. So if you want efficiency, talk to your contractors, building departments. They say, oh, there's different rules here, different rules there. What if they were all the same? What if you could walk into any township office and take out a building permit? Those are efficiencies to move the economy forward and keep things, keep development going. If you want less money, it's probably not going to happen, but it could shake out in the long term. Studies do show that costs do go up with amalgamation, but again, the bottom line is, are you looking for costs or efficiency? And I do absolutely believe that conversations are happening, and if this county doesn't get over itself about the 2-tier thing, there's going to be some scary days ahead that we might not like. Better to embrace it and design it yourself than to find out that you now belong to Muskoka.
Dane, I'm wondering if you have any insight from other parts of the province, or?
So there's like whispers of county councillors in Grey that talking about this issue now. Grey County, like my municipality, Grey Highlands, was 9 communities, 5 different municipalities that merged together to create Grey Highlands in 2001. I think I understand a lot what you're saying about the efficiency model and such. I think, I'll be honest and say my fear is more that erosion of the elected official's voice. If we go down to a single tier, you're dropping off kind of that voice from some of the smaller parts. And I think you kind of mentioned that, like it does happen. And the other thing I think is that when I look at Grey Highlands, this is my own perspective, the 5 municipalities that merged the Craigray Highlands are still 5 municipalities. Like, we don't have a ward system, it's a general election, but by George, let me tell you, there's an unofficial ward system. The county, the members across my municipality, I have one from Rockland, I have one from Osprey, one from Artemisia. Like, it did happen and shake itself out that way. And the population is very much, if I try to touch the Rockland Arena that's been there for 50 years, it's don't touch my stuff. And then, okay, well, we need to find money savings, so maybe I'll go to Osprey. And Osprey says, don't touch my stuff. And so I don't know how we're going to do that when we go to a single tier where there's now, what would be maybe like 40 different municipalities. I haven't experienced that. I appreciate the research you've done, like that you have more time and thought put into this than I have than being asked the question right now. My instincts is that I haven't processed it enough to see the value in it. I see conflict and challenges.
Okay.
Can I respond? May I respond?
Yes.
Am I allowed? Am I allowed to?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So this feeds into, see, I get all excited about this stuff. This feeds into the reason why we're here is that people don't understand what it is that we don't do it anymore. People don't understand what the job is. So I think that affects how people vote. So if you're going to amalgamate, you're going to have, let's just say Haliburton County went down to, I don't know, 8 people for the entire, that means one person. You're going to have people from all over, and they're still going to represent their area. So the fear is, well, what if nobody represents anywhere north of Dorset? Well, that's why you need to understand the job to elect the right people to do that job, and to do that, you have to increase the money, which is partially where some of the costs come from. If you want good people to do a good job across a broad geographic range, you have to make it a job, not this old folksy part-time, well, I'll see you at the meeting there, Clem. Like, we're not there anymore. We have serious issues and serious opportunity in this community, and we still have one foot in podunk, and we need to keep moving. So.
Mayor, Liz.
I really appreciate everything that you've all said because you're all right on the money. My concern is, and Dane has touched on this a little bit, with the strong mayor's powers that are in place, how do you see us convincing new people to run when they know they're not going to have a voice?
Yeah.
I just cannot see what the solution is there, and it really scares me.
So the question is just how do you convince people to run with strong mayor powers and they may not have a voice around the table?
I would love to feel that one a little bit if I may, because it kind of builds on. So who runs for mayor will make a big difference, right? Like, the strong mayor powers legislatively say that they have the authority to fire the CAO, fire senior staff, reorganize your municipality. They get to dictate the budget. They can veto council decisions, okay? They can also give every one of those powers back to council with the exception of direction on the budget. And direction of the budget doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to go from personal experience. My mayor gave direction on the budget, said I want to see a 2.5% operational increase, but no capital increase, like that was up to our asset management plan. So it was pretty balanced. I wasn't going to argue with that. But you can also, as a strong mayor, direct those powers to say, I want to have fiscal meetings with council and department heads and discuss budgetary pressures across the year, and so that all of council is involved in the budget process. So the strong mayor powers are scary based upon who gets elected as your mayor, right? Now, at the end of the day, if a mayor delegates their authority down to the council as a whole, they still have the authority to bring that delegation back. So they can say, no, you know what, in this instance, I want to use my powers. But that's where the voters win. Because then the voters get to say, whoa, you said you're not going to be using those strong mayor powers. You said this is what you wanted to say, that's a democracy, we're going to keep it held to that. Now when it comes to election time, you're going to get called out. So that's the part of, like, back to what you said, elect strong people who are educated. If somebody's standing up at the front of the room, and I'm respectfully to the person who might be in this room saying, well, this is my plan. If they're standing up here saying, I'm going to promise you 0% increases, they're being ridiculous. If they promise you, I'm going to fire the CAO because they're absolutely useless, that's a red flag to me. It's who you elect will help protect you from the strong mayor powers. The other option that does currently exist, although may change, is have your council change to a 5-member council, because 5-member councils don't have strong mayor powers.
Yet.
And I actually legitimately had a council member who considered doing that.
Yet.
And the odds are it's going to get changed. However, the dynamic changes because then you can have 2 people make a decision for council and bind the corporation. Remember that council is, the municipality is a corporation. in a budget process, you're talking 3 of 7 people have the authority to bind the corporation to a contract and to a thing, and that, and like, to me, that is a serious concern. So yeah, I appreciate that question. Sorry if I took too long.
Andrea or Pat, did you want to respond to that question at all? Or
Well, I'm glad it came up. I'll be a voter in the next municipal election. I will be heeding your advice. I don't have any experience, so I will reserve comment, but I will be, I hope, yeah, never mind. Just
do we have any other questions? Yes, Jessica.
Yeah, I just have a question about how you attract more people to run and what council should be doing now to prepare for the election. So I think we've talked a bit about compensation, and so there's things they can do, but Pat, you actually mentioned daytime meetings. So I'm thinking about young mums or people who have other jobs outside of wanting to be a councillor, because obviously pay doesn't necessarily equate to a full-time salary. What should councils be doing now to set up the structure such that people can see themselves actually serving in that role?
I think what you'll run into is the staff costs with evening meetings. They work all day and then they're expected to come back for an evening meeting, so you're going to have contract implications if they're unionized and remuneration on that part. I struggle with this one because my 2 daughters and their families live in Haliburton, and one is strong enough to do the job, but she wouldn't entertain it because you have your own life, and that's priority number 1. I don't have an easy answer to that one. I'm sorry. I don't know how you find the balance. Try the meetings at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you get off work early, I don't know. Nobody wants to give up their weekends.
No, that's for sure.
if I can chime in on that one, I think it would be difficult if you were employed somewhere else and had set hours that you had to do, then probably running for council isn't for you. It's probably not ideal. If you're in a flexible type of job or someone where if you are still working for somebody else and your employer says, look, it's like, some professional athletes or curlers and that kind of thing. You say, can I take the fourth Thursday? Like if you go to your employer and say, can I work and be available? Especially I'm talking about for the role of a councillor at the lower tier municipal council. I don't think that there's anything councils can do right now. I think it's what can we do? Remember I said tap somebody on the shoulder. If you know of somebody that you think would be good, go to them, tell them, just like you did. That's how I got on council. Say and show them your support. But in terms of the hours, it's probably not necessarily going to change.
So we'll go Dane, Pat, and Carol.
Sorry, my question is going to be for the three other panelists who have the history. So currently, my council meetings are not terribly efficient. And so we're averaging like 4.5 hours per meeting for a council meeting. And then my county council meetings are maybe only like 2.5. So that's a big part too. Like if your council is being efficiently managed, I'm going to make one more quick comment about Grey Highlands specifically that drives me nuts is we have musical chairs at council table. We passed a change to our procedural bylaw. The mayor starts the meeting. In the Municipal Act, the mayor chairs the meeting. The mayor hands off his duties to the liaison for the different departments. So if you're the transportation liaison, you chair any item to do with the transportation department and the community development department, economic development, and vice versa. It is horrendously inefficient. I have argued against this thing from the beginning. Musical chairs makes no sense. As far as I have found across AMO and Roma, the only municipality in Ontario that does musical chairs. My mayor said he was doing it so that he could train other councillors to have the confidence to be chair and experience, but it allows him to speak to every motion that he's not chairing and move motions. But anyways, so efficiency of the council meeting. If your council's running efficiently, that makes it a lot easier for somebody to come on, and then I will actually 100% support tap someone on the shoulder. Even if you're a council member and you have, there's 5 other council members, you find somebody who's engaged and excited for the right reasons, tap them and say, you should run. We should have elections. Nobody across Ontario should be acclaimed for any position, myself included. You want best people, the only way to get the best people is to have actual elections.
Well, hang on a second.
Nobody should be acclaimed anywhere in Ontario. I'll stand by that.
Pat, you had another comment.
Well, you know what? I know, and I was acclaimed 3 times. And people say, "Oh, you got the job because no one ran against you." Yeah, that's right. I would welcome the debate, and that's what we need. Because of the questions that we're asking and what people are talking about is, you need a forum, and there aren't all candidates meetings anymore, where you can go and hear what the people have to say, partially because there aren't any candidates. But we need to have those forums so that you can hear people, so that if any of this has resonated with you, that you can ask people. And if there aren't going to be candidates events, or not huge pools or fields of people running, you still have the right to call up the person who maybe is going to become a council person or a mayor, and grill them on this stuff, because we need to be held to account, and we can only be held to account by the people. But the people are falling away because, and I'll address this in the final question, but nobody calls anybody back anymore, which I cannot comprehend. So to the question, it can change, but consider the fact that sitting councils, no offense to the ones who are here, they may not want to change meeting times and things because it might broaden the field of people who might run against them. So come on, I mean, that's a reality. So that's where you need the big thinking people to be able to be big enough to say, it may cost me my job, but I think it's in the best interest of the community. Whatever you do, really, I know it sounds Pollyanna, but it really is about what's in the best interest of the community. And so some of that change can happen if people have the courage to actually step up and make those suggestions. It'll take time, but it can happen.
Pat?
Yeah, I had one other thought on that timing of committee meetings. We have a program in the county that works extremely well. It is having some challenges now, but it's our volunteer firefighters. They've been able to go talk to their employer and get permission to leave the job. And that's huge. So the employers need to be thanked every time. That's the backbone of our emergency services. And we need to maybe come up with some ideas or checklists that you can take to your employer and say, the ABC company said, yes, we're community minded. We're happy to do this, maybe in exchange for some work. I think that's a model that should be looked at a little deeper. And it's certainly important here.
It's a great suggestion.
As a member of the HDP, I just wrote down we should create the checklist for candidates' employers to give to people.
Any other questions from the floor? I'm going to go, Faye, yeah?
So it sounds to me like we're describing a full-time job that requires a lot of intelligence and passion and commitment, but we're paying crap money.
Yes.
So what can we do to fix the money problem?
Lobby your councils.
So the question, just that there seems to be a disconnect between what's expected on the job and the level of compensation, and what are some thoughts on how to bring those closer together?
I will add to that. Realize from council's perspective, it is very hard to sit there and vote for a pay raise, because the first thing you're going to hear from your residents is, well, I wish I could vote myself a raise. And so the reality is, accept the fact as voters and as residents that if you want to encourage people, then you need to pay them. Like I said, for us, Great Highlands, we had a significant change. I went from council making, my highest paid year is $17,000 to my average paid for my councillors right now of almost 30. That changed because we had community members help us make that decision and push it. It wasn't council itself. So have council lobby the municipality, have them talking to staff, engage your council and engage others who say, no, they shouldn't get paid that much. No, the reality is you want good qualified people, pay them.
Anyway, Carol?
And congratulations on your community committee giving you, we finally got some benefits at Algonquin Highlands. And I've said to people that, so the wage at lower tier and upper tier, I think was somewhere around 45, which, okay, but there's nothing after that. And people are always shocked. The day you chair or the day of the handover, you hand in your keys and your phone, and it's like they just pull the Get Smart door down, and you got nothing. You have no money, no pension, no benefits, there's nothing. And so there needs to be this overall investment on a lot of fronts to encourage people to be able to do the job. Because people, if they had more money, maybe they could work part-time or get something that's more flexible. So it's that constant give and take. If this, then that. What about that? Can we do that? And I think the public has to constantly talk to their council members to say, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. A council could come in the first year, Tony always said this, go in the first year and vote yourself a raise for the next term, except you can't bind a future council. So you're going to have to, at some point, eat the fact that, yeah, you bet, we voted ourselves a raise and a compensation package that will see this community into the future. And that's the courage you need to have.
Andrea?
In my experience with just with Dysart Council, I mean, every time it was ever discussed, and we were the lowest paid councillors in the county, we did bring it forward several different times in my 16 years on council. It was slow going, but generally when we did make any decision, it would be effective December 1 of the, so it wasn't for us at the time. I had to fight for health benefits. We, at Dysart Council, we didn't get it. We didn't get anything. We didn't get a phone, we didn't get a computer. You were completely on your own personal devices. We don't have a health package. So we ended up compromising and doing a personal health spending account. But again, every time you vote it for the end. Not for yourself, because it is a difficult discussion, but you need fair compensation. You really do. And I know that that's happened at the county, and I know that that's happened at Dysart recently, and I don't know where they're at actually right now, but I think it's getting a lot better than it was.
The one last quick thing I just add is in our policy when we change the compensation package, in that policy it also says that the council remuneration gets reviewed at the end of every term.
Okay.
So that allowed the policy to dictate that we have to have the conversation again, which we're having right now as our council table. We're not changing the salary scale because it also said that we're going up by COLA with staff, like whatever staff COLA get, that's what the council pay. So that helps to keep it being fair. We had our pay, the reason I was 17,000, we were stagnant for I think 8 or 9 years. There was no change to it. So then there had to be this conversation. So policies can get implemented, which can help enforce and reinforce these. If you're doing a staff remuneration review, you should be doing one for council at the same time. We're just all the team.
Great point.
And can I do a part B to that question?
You sure can.
If we reduce the number of councillors, we could use the same amount of money to create well-paying jobs if there were less of those well-paying jobs, right? If there was an amalgamation to one level, which then was less councillors, the same amount of money could be split less ways, which means better paying jobs. Is that a possibility?
So the question just would be, one of the impacts of amalgamation mean less councillors splitting the same amount of money, therefore increasing the salaries?
Go first, please.
Well, you aggregate up. So an example is the 3 municipalities are unionized, and Algonquin Highlands isn't because it doesn't need to be. But when you're consolidating anything, you aggregate up. So you're not wrong, Faye, but then you have to consider, is the amount of remuneration currently enough for the job that's being done? No. But if you're going to double the job, like double or triple the geographic area and the number of issues, does that in itself get covered by using that extra money? You're thinking on the fly here to fill in, and what you should do if you're going to implement, develop some kind of compensation package, then it's going to go up. So you're not wrong, but it would need, dare I say, some sort of consultant.
Andrea, you have a comment.
Well, just to end, or no, maybe I'm not ending, just to say,
Goodbye.
maybe there's more. If you are running for council for the money,
Yeah.
regardless of if it's fair compensation, seriously, don't run for council then. It shouldn't be about the money. There are all kinds of people, Faye yourself included, who devote hours and hours to this community. Chairs of hospital boards and HCDCs and all kinds of organizations. We all know them, what they are in the county, so I won't list. And they're not compensated anything. Zero, usually. Maybe coffee, maybe a lunch. So I think if you don't view it as it's community service as part of the job, then you shouldn't run.
One quick thing,
I have a question.
I'll keep
So, somewhere there's a line between doing charity work and trying to create a career type job. Because if there's no money to create a good paying job, how in the world can you attract the next level of young, educated people up? But they have to be paid. And as Carol said, somewhere you gotta pull, county municipalities out of quota and become more professional, higher level, because this is like municipal management, not municipal politics. And management has to be escalated. Where are you gonna get these people with an aging population and young people that are going, maybe, but, you know, they're totally blowing off the idea because you just can't even live. Like, never mind get a job and do this, how about just have a job where it's fully focused and you're gonna get the quality people? That's where the money comes from. And to, on Faye's point, you know, mathematically that kind of works, so reducing the number of people, but there's a capacity issue. People only work so much and do so much. So then there's gotta be a spot somewhere where the salaries plus benefits have to be increased and far more worthwhile. Do I have an answer? I don't. But that's where you're talking about going with the whole level, you know, councillor, mayor, et cetera. Has to be elevated to a new level.
So just really reinforcing this this need for compensation to reflect the level of effort that's going into the work and how to attract a newer type of face around the council table, that this is a bit of a barrier. Any comments?
Well, you know, I'll always have a comment. So that's my brother, and he's a real numbers guy. I'm going to assign him the spreadsheet to figure that out because he doesn't have any spare time. So again, it comes back to informing people, finding a way to inform people so they understand what the jobs are, so they can make informed decisions to help grow things. Because one of the common, something that's said all the time is, well, if you make the job pay really well and it's a full-time job, everybody's going to run because they think it's an easy job. And there are all kinds of people who think, I could do that. Most people can't. So that's the other side of that is, if you make it, I don't want to use the word, well, I won't use it then. If you make it too attractive, then you could end up with everybody throwing their hat in the ring. And that's okay, as long as the public understands the job well enough to ask the right questions to get the quality people to bubble to the top. So the role of the public in local government is so important, and I think people don't understand that. It's so valuable, and we're losing people who are, you know, drifting off because we talk about zoning bylaws. So much more than that.
There's Faye's comment about the single-aged tier. In Grey Highlands, my municipal budget is about $22 million. So we're in charge of operating a $22 million corporation. That's what you should be looking at, as to what the job actually is. It's not a politician, I don't think. I think you said it very well, sir. Like you're a municipal manager as a council member. But when we look at like going to a single tier, so Grey Highlands, we have what we call our mayor and CAO, like assistant to the mayor and CAO. So there's no council staff people, right? So if we go to a single tier, if you look at Toronto, a Toronto city councillor has 12 to 14 staff people underneath them because they're so large and that scale. And so you might need to consider, if you're going to move to just a regional organization, do those councillors have their own staff people who help them do the research? Because now you're taking on that larger portfolio. So I don't necessarily know, like, just as a frank answer to Faye, whether or not going to a single tier will actually save enough money, because you might be hiring additional staff to support that council member.
Great, we've got time for one more question. Right from the press. Look at that. Emily, go ahead.
Oh, we're not done.
So I do have just one question, and I'm not going to direct it to anybody specifically because I don't like following those rules.
Yay!
But I will say, so we talked a lot about recruiting people. We don't believe in acclamations in every situation necessarily. There's a bunch of people in this room right now. Not all of them are going to run for council, but I'm curious if you could provide some insight for what the role of the public can be to further these agendas and to continue to elevate the presence and the responsibilities of council. Because not everybody in this room can run for council. I know a couple who are, which is great. Some of us work for the press, we can't run for council. But what are our roles in the community to make sure that our voices are appropriately heard? And I know it's not anger, I know it's not kind of rushing these things through. What is the most effective way we as a community can continue to push this forward?
So the question, what's the most effective way for us as community members to be able to continue this conversation and have that voice heard around council tables and in the community in general?
All of you may answer, quite slowly.
Just press record.
Who would like to start? Maybe Andrea?
Sure. So what can people in the community do? Carol referenced, I don't even think there were all candidates meetings last time. There should be all candidates meetings. I had to do them every time. It's great. It's nerve-wracking. Your stomach's a mess. You're hoping you've got your notes, but like this was way more relaxing, I have to say. So yeah, we should be able to, comfy chairs. It's comfy chairs. So we should be demanding that. We should have all candidates meetings. The community, talk to your friends and neighbors, get involved, find out who is running in your community. Don't vote. I mean, no, let me backtrack. I was gonna say don't and then say something else. Vote. People need to vote. And in order to vote, you need to get the information of who is even running. And so if someone is running in your ward or your district, then go to their website, phone them up. I think that the complacency that is happening across the country, really, in terms of all elections, whether municipal, provincial, the voter turnout is dreadful. So, yeah, we need to encourage our community, encourage people to vote and get engaged.
Okay. Any additions?
So I just want to ask clarity on the question. Is the question about how does the community support the conversation we're having about changing in council remuneration and such? Is that specifically what it is?
Whatever you'd like it to be.
So if
I think that's kind of where I was going.
okay, because that's kind of what I understood.
Andrea, you did great.
Andrea seems amazing. I'd love to be her deputy mayor.
It's a great job.
It was not that bad.
So I think, look where we are. We're in March of 2026 with an October election, and in August 24th, I think it is, or 26th, somewhere around there is the nomination period. And that's lame duck. So we have 4 or 5 months where the community, like if you're passionate about the conversation we're just having, you can start pushing your council now to form that community group to have this discussion on remuneration like Great Highlands did. You can have council have some of those discussions now to review remuneration for the next term. Be fair, like it is awkward to vote your own pay raise, but if you're voting a pay raise for the next term, you have 4 or 5 months to have that conversation. A notice of motion at your council table will start it. Staff will, whatever your direction is. So that's one mechanism where the community right now can say, we think you guys deserve a better paycheck. We think this is a strong thing. We've seen it done in other communities. Here you go. Our committee brought forward a report to council. You could look it up. It's at greyhighlands.ca and find that report, and I can try and forward it off to the representatives here. So that can come grassroots from the community leaving this room right now to push for that and still have that conversation in time for this next election.
Right. I'm going to...
Oh, Jean's got her hand up.
I'm responding to Emily's question about what can the public do, and she can't say this, but I will. Subscribe to your local newspaper. And you don't get your information at the coffee shop in the morning. You get it through your newspapers and your radio stations. So please, it's what, 30, 40 bucks a year? And it's,
I'll send it to you for free.
Yeah.
So just read it. I don't care.
so it's a shocking situation how ill-informed we are.
Well, this is... I think I'm going to have to wrap us up. But you can add it in your final... You can add it in your final comments.
Oh,
Carol.
that page is full.
Right? Well, it's too late for the hook now anyway. Thank you so much for the thoughtful questions. I'm hoping there'll be a bit of time at the end so that you can, if you want to follow up one-on-one with our panelists, there'll be an opportunity to do that. We did save some time for closing comments. To pull it all together, we've asked each panel member to take 2 to 3 minutes and give us their words of advice for anyone considering running for council. And Pat, we're going to start with you.
Sure. The first thing, you need to develop a thick skin or stop reading social media. And you end up on a contentious issue, you may get 500 emails over a weekend. And that's just, you got to weed them through, delete them, read them, whatever you're going to do. So that's like the first thing is, and I struggled with that. I take a lot of those comments, I took them personally. And that's not the right attitude. You should take it and understand where they're coming from, and do I need to modify my position? The other ones here I had pretty well listed. The one caution I have is be cautious of special interest groups. They have a lot of power, but may not represent the silent majority. So my goal is always, if I can get all the parties mildly pissed off, then we won. That's a victory. And speaking of victories, I've forgotten all the fights that we had with some of the projects we tried to get going, didn't. My heart fills when I go downtown and I see we have a new visitor center. It was done under COVID. We've got a new resident area over at the college. We've got a new garage at the college, or at the Lee Park. And just a lot of things that I can go down through town and just say, yeah, I was part of that. So I think we've been trying to tell this is a terrible job. This is the best job you can have, as long as you put the effort. It really is. I loved it, and I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to move forward with my next plan. But the only other one would be Haliburton County Development Corporation. That's the other one. You get on that board of directors, that's the plum job. There's no pay, but you get to do a lot of great things for our community. And I'm just so proud to have been served there for 10 years.
Thank you. Andrea, you got...
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thanks to Heather and the Healthy Democracy Project for having this night. This has been fun. It was old hometown week. We went out for dinner together. I got to meet Dane, but the three of us are just like blah, 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 blah. and you know, I worked with Pat alongside him. He always called me boss. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. I said, I'm not your boss. We had a great rapport.
Respect.
I know. That was great. I really appreciated that, and I appreciated your support. We didn't always agree, and that was a perfect example. We worked with things, and you mentioned some of the projects that we did on the last 4 years of our term. The college residents that we did all the prep work for. The shovel didn't go in the ground until just after, but all of that stuff, the welcome center. Local government is the level of government, we've all heard this before, that you are closest to, that you can make the most difference, whether you're sitting in this chair as the mayor, chair, councillor, or a person in the community. You have an opportunity to make a difference in your community. You know, the playground equipment, the playground went in after us, but we set aside a couple $100,000 in there to kickstart that off, and then they went and did fundraising. It's so exciting to see stuff like that. So yeah, just really proud, and I look back on with fond memories. So.
Dane, what advice do you have?
I don't hide this well, but I absolutely love this job. Okay, listen, you are going to get to find out more about sign bylaws than you ever can. And if you're really lucky and lose your mind on them like I did and threaten council with 20 hours of committee of the whole, only to do 14 hours of committee of the whole to prove that sign bylaw is garbage, you're going to freaking love this job, okay? You get to learn about dog kennels and spend a week learning only to have a resident tell you that you're absolutely mental, don't know a clue what you're doing, even though you spent a week doing research and understanding so when the bylaw came forward for the dog kennel, you knew what you were talking about and were ready to support it. This job has an ability to understand what is happening in your community more than any actual resident understands it, to fund projects that make a matter and a difference to the future of your municipality. Why do I run? I always argue, my children, if they want to move away to explore the city, or they want to move away to China to learn and have a great experience, fantastic. If they have to leave Grey Highlands because there's no opportunity for them, then I failed. Pure and simple, there's my job. That can be your job. You can help support the next generation. Have a vision of what is happening 25 years from now, not as what's happening in 4 years in your term. There's my quick rant on nothing I wrote down, but I'm so passionate and excited. So realize that what do I got? I got to look at how negative the provincial and federal attack ads are. None of us like those, right? Like none of us actually like the Pierre Poilievre attacks on Mark Carney or the Liberal attacks on the Conservatives. Don't campaign that way. Campaign with a project of what you want to do to benefit your community, what changes you want to make, what investments you think are realistic and going to do, and do that. Run on what you have to offer. Don't run because you think Bob didn't do a good job, or I'm sorry, I meant Bob, my apologies. I'm trying to use a generic thing. Run not because you think of so-and-so didn't do a good job, run because of what you're going to do, and have that passion and integrity to be excited about it. Because once you get in, you're gonna learn so much, and you're gonna be overwhelmed. Like that first year, I think, like Pat, you said it. In my first year, I think I moved about 11 or 12 notice of motions, only to have every single one of them not even seconded. Okay? I would like to argue, though, 3 years later, my council moved the majority of those suggestions because it took them time to catch up to how excited I was about what was going on. My first Roma, remember Roma, January 2027, I spent in a room with the planner of Mississauga, the head planner for Caledon, and a councillor for the municipality of Orangeville. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning over 15-year-old scotch.
Nice.
But came back with zoning bylaw concepts and ideas on what to change my own municipality. You're going to network. You're going to meet people who have ideas across. I had a fantastic tour around with Barry. I got to meet Mayor Bob, and I got to meet the CAO, Gary, and Tamara, who had great conversations with them about things that are going on here that I don't have back in my municipality. I'm going to go bring back conversations. That is what's so exciting about this job. Meeting everybody all across. 15 seconds, I know, but here I am. And just please understand, it is exciting, okay? It is exciting. It is not bleak. We get yelled at and cursed out on social media. Who cares? Like, do you see that person? Do they know you? Do they care about you? Who cares? Have fun, be passionate, make your community the best it can, and run, because nobody should be acclaimed. Thank you very much.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
Yeah.
I just met you, buddy.
I know. I would love to be a deputy mayor too.
All right, Carol, you've got the last word.
Right. So Liz worked with Liz for years. I like lists because it's a short time. So you don't need a robust, you don't need a degree or a robust resume. I'm going to read this. You need to be a good person who cares about the community and will be part of a collaborative decision-making process. You can learn to read legal documents and financial statements, but you can't learn to be a good and fair-minded person. Don't be afraid to run and lose. Put your hand up. Understand the job and respect the process. It's a confusing process. The process works well when everyone knows their role and stays in their lane. And it falls apart quickly when they don't. Remember, council governs, staff manages. Council governs, staff manages. Be prepared to do the job. The most common complaint, I mentioned this earlier, councils don't respond. How many people say, I called my councillor, I never had anybody call me back? It's very, very common. Be the councillor who listens and be the member of the public who calls. It's a relationship and you have to build it. It's a two-way street. You have to build that relationship both ways. If your councillor is not talking to you, giving you answers, even if they're ones you don't like, make noise about that. Like, call them out on it. It says, I speak from experience, set firm and fair boundaries around your personal time. You are not required to be available 7 days a week. And the public thinks you are. There is still that expectation, and I think as a community we need to do better around that. You have to make firm boundaries about what you will and won't discuss, because at some dinner party, there's always someone who's going to say, so you're the mayor, eh? I'm going to talk about my taxes, right? So you have to be able to say, I appreciate your input on the taxes. Let me get your number, and I'll call you tomorrow. Like, you have to set those boundaries, because the public will come for you. Like, they're in your face all the time. It's like bees. Then ensure your communication. You communicate your availability so that you are very findable, and then be the person that calls back. Be strategic with social media. Like, don't make constituents your friends on your social channels, because then they see what you did in the weekend and they're at your grandmother's birthday party with you. And then when your high school friends post pictures of that weekend, don't do that. Here's a big one. Don't underestimate the burden of confidentiality and the value of discretion. So it's a small town, and your knowledge will become currency, and everyone will try and get it from you. So you're going to learn things about people in your community, probably people you know. The public are going to tell you things about other people, and it's called smile and wave. Great, how are you? Yes, you just can't. And the public expects you to uphold their confidentiality as much as the municipality does. No matter what decision you make, somebody won't like it, and they'll tell you about it. And to what everyone else has said, remember the value and the honor of doing this work. It is a good job. I loved it. I complained about it a lot. Remember, don't lose sight of why you ran. There will be some very, very dark days and days when you think, what am I doing? I hate this. Like, I just can't, But it really is, ultimately, there's way more good than there is bad. And my final comment is, don't become the reason you ran in the first place.
Wow. That's a good line.
Know when to step aside.
Wow.
That's my top 10.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening, for all the preparation I know went into tonight. Round of applause for And I do have a few wrap-up comments as we close out the evening. So as I indicated at the beginning of tonight's session, this is the third of a series of 4. The final session is scheduled for April 21st at Stanhope Community Center up in Algonquin Highlands.
Center of the universe.
You can sign up on the website at hhdp.ca. And for that session, Lauren Hunter will be speaking about running a successful campaign. And this session is focused on how to do that as a municipal candidate, supporter, or a voter. And it also transitions to community campaigns more broadly as well. So there'll be something for everybody. On behalf of the steering committee, thank you so much for attending tonight, for your interest in the project, everything that you do for our community. And I really want to do a shout out to the planning committee. You're an amazing group of people, so thank you.